All right, guys. So, following up from my first video, I'm gonna cook some of these thick cut pork chops. Now, these are good sized pork chops. I mean, I enjoy good steak. Steaks are expensive. This is still a big cut of meat. This is really, really tender because this is equivalent from the loin that it's on. It's also where you get some of your most tender steaks out of a cow. These are just coming from the pig, and so much cheaper. So these that we have right here, I'm gonna weigh these out. Talk about a 10 ounce, right? So 10 ounce right there. If you judge that against like a 10 ounce steak coming out of the loin, like massive difference in price. So what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna take this out to the flat top. I enjoy cooking outside of my house because if you're like me, I have one of those microwave hoods, and when you cook underneath it, right, all it does is take all of, the steam and heat and, smoke at times and just blow it back into the house. And, then your smoke alarms go off and your house is just explosive. In a restaurant that doesn't have, we have real big, nice hoods. So I got to the point that I said, I'm cooking outside. You'll see in a minute, like I have a very lovely place where I can cook outside. So I do it quite a bit. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take these outside and do them on the flat top. But we're gonna season these things first. These are big pieces of meat. So I'm just gonna start off with a little bit of salt. We're gonna be adding a rub on it as well. So I'm not going too heavy on it. Gonna get each side, pat them down good. When you're sprinkling stuff, right? Everybody knows the guy, like don't do that. But you do want to go from up high. The reason being that you're gonna get a lot better seasoning all over. So you're gonna have like clumps if you do it down low. We don't want, clumps of anything. Make sure we got those two good. So like I said, not too much because we are going to put on a seasoning blend. That's going to have a little bit of salt in it. So seasoning blend I'm going to use today. This is Peach Tea Barbecue Rub. This comes from the Spice and Tea Exchange down in Savannah. I got to go there not too long ago, and they just had a ton of stuff. Just so many, different spices, teas. And so this is, so it's peach tea. It's from their Peach on the Beach black tea. So it's very similar to a barbecue rub. It's very similar to the one that I normally use. But it does have like, this peachiness, which, we're in Georgia in the South. That's a fun thing to have. So we're going to put that on just a second. Gotta wash these hands. All right, so all washed up. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the seasoning, I'm gonna put it to another container just to reduce the risk of contaminating all the seasoning that's in here. Just gonna kind of guess about how much I'm gonna need. Once again, I'm gonna try not to contaminate this, but you never know, better safe than sorry. So once again, I'm gonna take this up high, gonna do it on. Now I'm not trying to like completely cover it, but you want a good amount, especially with such a large piece of meat. Definitely want a good amount. We're gonna get it on all sides. And you gotta tray something under it, even plate, whatever. What's gonna happen is you're gonna have a lot of it fall to the side, but we're still gonna get that. We're gonna dap up all that with all the sides and everything. Give it a nice little push to make sure it sticks on. Gonna flip these bad boys. Once again, season these up. The seasoning's very aromatic. I can get the peach, I can get the tea coming out. When you cook it, it's not like overwhelmingly like tea, but it does add a very interesting dynamic to the flavor. Got those good. So now I'm just gonna take these and just kind of pick up all the little seasoning bits. I can actually use a little bit more. Just want to get all the sides, not just the top and the bottom, or front and back, or whatever you want to call it. I want to get all sides really good. Even the fat, get those. Now, this stuff is still good, didn't mess with it, so it can go back in the bag. But however you want to season these, fine. You could just straight salt and pepper, get fancy with a little garlic, onion powder, who knows, what, paprika. however you feel, however you want to do it. I got, a lot of seasonings. I don't know if you can see. I have a whole drawer, like, these are some of my seasonings. Weird stuff in there. My son told me the other day at the grocery store, he's like, Dad, we don't have any regular seasonings. I said, we got a ton of seasonings. He's like, no, it's smoked or it's roasted or it's always something different. You don't have any normal seasonings. And he was right. And then it shamed me into buying some regular seasonings. But, I like to explore with flavor. Do whatever you want with these. However you want to season them up. Like I said, if you just have, simple salt and pepper, give it to S&P, and that's good enough. So, we're going to cook these on the flat top. What's very, very important, a lot of people, always ask me, they're like, oh, how long should I cook that? Right? There's no real answer for how long you cook something, right? Because it's going to depend on the temperature you're cooking it at. It's going to depend on the method. Are you doing it in the oven? Are you doing it in the smoke? Are you doing it on a charcoal grill, gas grill, flat top, all these things, right? Doing it on a pan on the stove. It's going to be a little bit different, right? Even what type of pan you have. So when I cook things, the most important thing that I do is I don't cook for X amount of minutes. I cook to a temperature. And if you cook things to a temperature, it's going to be cooked correctly. It's not going to be overcooked. It's still going to be moist. It's not going to be undercooked, right? There's some things that we don't want to undercook. So with this, there's two ways that we can do it, right? One, really simple. Get yourself a digital thermometer, right? These digital thermometers, they can do Fahrenheit, Celsius, they can do a lot of things. Some of them will have things where you can adapt and put different probes in it, which we'll talk about in a second. They're very, very accurate. Some of them you can even calibrate them, so if you think that they're not accurate for some reason, you can change that, get them fixed. You can stick them in boiling water. Boil water, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like one of the number one things that my students don't know. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I stick this into that water, just say 212. If it says, 216, right, I'm going to calibrate it and I'm going to bring it down to 212. These things are going to be accurate, hopefully within like a degree or two at the worst. So that's a good way to do it. If you want, don't want to wait for boiling water, you can, get some ice, a bunch of ice in a cup, put water in it, let it sit for a minute to get really, really cold. It should be 32 degrees. If it's not 32, calibrate it. So this way, as it's cooking, we go in and just temp it. Now, whenever you temp stuff, right? Like I'll do this when I cook it, but we're not hitting it on the edge, right? Not in the top. We want to go like in the center. We want to get in there to the middle, right? Because we're reading the temperature here. We want to read the temperature in the thickest part of the meat. While these are like the same thickness, say you have like a chicken breast, right? They're gonna be thicker and then taper off unless you flatten them. Thickest part of the meat, right? And don't just temp it once, right? Temp it like at least 2 times, right? Whatever the lower temperature is, that's the one you want to go with. So with these, a lot of people cook their pork well done. Don't do that. We don't have. So there, back especially like before I was born, 70s, 60s on there's a thing called trichinella, right? And it's a parasite, and it would cause trichinosis. And you would have to cook that out. Well, after the 70s, right, that parasite's pretty much been eradicated, and we don't have to worry about that. So when I like to cook, thick cut chops, my roasts, things like that, they need to hit like I don't like to go above 140 really. If you were to like cut open my pork loin, right, or give it my chops and you cut it open, it's going to be pink in the middle, and you're going to be like, oh no, it's pink in the middle, it's still raw. No, it's not. It's delicious. That's what it is. I had last year I had my students, I had them all cook these chops, right, and then I cooked one, and I cooked it perfectly, right? Still pink in the middle. And then kids were trying theirs and they loved theirs because I, showed them how to do it. But they're cooking and they're getting into 150s and then even 160s. Now I had them try a piece of mine and they were like, oh my goodness. Right? One kid even said, that's not the best pork chop ever. That's the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And it's just because it's cooked correctly. We don't have to cook it really, really high and it's going to dry out. We're going to keep it really, really moist. So the other way, especially if I'm doing something bigger than one of these, I'm going to get me a digital thermometer that's going to have probes connected to it. This one can just handle 2 probes. I've had some that can handle 4. And you would take this probe, stick it into one of those big roasts. like I was telling you about. And this cord, it can get really, really hot, right? So you can put it in your oven, put it in the smoker, put it on the grill, whatever, and have this into the thickest part of the meat. And this is going to tell you the temperature of it on the inside. So this comes also with an app, and I can tell that app what temperature I want to cook to, right? So if I'm doing a pork loin and I want to cook to, say, like 100 and probably about 130 to 135. Once it gets to about 130, that alarm's going to go off. It's going to go off on my phone. It's going to go off on here. Everybody's going to hear it. I'm going to, I need to go, check my pork loin. Because even when I do that, I still go through and double check with one of these, because I said you can temp more than one place. And then, even if I want to hit 140, I don't like to go above 140. It starts to dry out after that. I'm going to pull it by about 130. Reason being, we have what's called carryover cooking. And that means when you remove, especially, meat, especially bigger pieces of meat, right? And you remove it from the heat, whether it's oven, stove, smoker, grill, it's not going to start cooling off. It is still going to continue to cook, right? And it's going to go up, depending on the size of the meat, 5-10 degrees, right? So say you're working with chicken, you're like, I got, 165, got to get my chicken, right? Pull it like 158, 160, right? And even like you can cook chicken to a lower temperature if you keep it at that temperature for a while. Especially when we have bigger pieces of meat, we're gonna let them rest. Not even just, when I say bigger, like this, a steak, right? We're gonna cook it, and then once we pull it off, we're gonna let it rest so the juices in there, right, that we're working hard to keep, right, we're gonna let those kind of redistribute. If you've ever had a steak and cut it open and there's just liquid all over your plate, right, that's the moisture that you're trying to keep in. But if you just get in there and like cut it open, it's all just going to come out. I mean, you can still sop it up, but when you have a piece of meat that's just really juicy and tender, and it's all, you give it time to rest and redistribute. A big piece of meat, say like a pork shoulder or Boston butt, right, I could let that sit for and rest for like 2 hours, right, to let it redistribute really, really well, and it's going to make a big difference. And we're not letting them like cool off, right? They're still going to stay warm and at a good temperature. So we definitely don't want them getting cold or anything. Anyway, so I'm going to take these to the flat top. We're going to talk about cooking pork chops, right? All right, let's go. Oh, I need this. All right, guys. So here's my flat top. As you can see, got a really nice place to just sit and cook and have a wonderful view. Do it a lot when it's raining, but also on nice, beautiful days like this. So we're going to get into working with this flat top. It's a 17-inch Blackstone, running on propane tank down at the bottom. Got my flat top set up. One thing that I always like to do, I like to cook with my flat top at a certain temperature, usually between 400 and 450 degrees. If it's a little bit over, it's not that big of a deal. Because when you put something that's colder, or even if you let your meat get to room temperature for a more even cook, it's still a lot colder than that flat top, so it's going to bring the temperature down a little bit. So I'm going to get this flat top somewhere around 400, 450 degrees. I like to use one of these infrared thermometers. This is going to measure the surface of something, so even like a hot pan, or for example this flat top. So I'm going to temp it, and we're right at 452 degrees, so this is kind of where I want it to be. So I'm going to take one of our thick cut pork chops, all right? And first thing I'm going to do, I've already oiled up the flat top. So I'm going to kind of hit the sides really good. I'd rather get them now so I don't forget about them. Or, if I get my pork chop to the temperature I want, I don't want to have to go try to hit the sides then and then cook it further than I intended to. So I got my pork chop, first side's down. I'm going to let that go and really get that side nice and caramelized. It's what we call a Maillard reaction. That's where all the sugars and stuff start to brown and caramelize, just like it would in bread or steak or burger, or even vegetables in a pan. So if you're putting anything down on a hot surface and it just kind of just grabs, you try to pick it up and it won't come up, just leave it. It'll get to where it needs to go, and it'll let go of it. All right, guys, so we've had it on for a couple minutes. Got the lid shut just to kind of keep a good temperature in there, because it is a big piece of meat. So you see it's released. I'm gonna flip that over, get a nice look on this side. So we're gonna be looking for that on the other side, but also We don't want to burn either side because it is a thick piece of meat. So we have our thermometer so that we're going to make sure that we have a good internal temperature. We're going to make sure we're looking for internal temperature of about 130 when we pull it off. All right, just going to check on this guy again. Hopefully somewhere around 130 should be by now. Let's check it out, see what we got. All right, we're about 100, we hit 120. I'm sure this side's gonna be a little warmer. Yeah, this side's a little thinner. So we're gonna be trying to check around this thicker part. We are almost there. Back in a second. All right, one more time. We should be about there. Oh yeah, there we are. So definitely got where we want it to be. So we're gonna take this back inside. All right, guys, we're back in the kitchen. We've let this pork chop rest so that, like we said, we're gonna let these juices redistribute. While it was resting, I went out, cleaned my flat top, took advantage of that time while it was still hot to get it clean. So it's been here long enough. We're gonna cut into this and then we're gonna plate it just real simple. Nice, but simple, not a lot going on. First thing we're gonna do, we wanna have a sharp knife. To have a nice cut on a piece of meat, you need a sharp knife. I like my stuff sliced really, really thin. Usually I slice my meat before I even put it on my plate when I'm at home, just so I can enjoy it while I'm eating rather than just trying to dig into it. So we're going to be cutting this right here, like I said, on a bias, really thin. I can see right away we got a really good cook on this pork chop. For example, like when you look through, it's a little too much on this side compared to the other side, but it's got a little bit of pink left in the middle. So, like I said, that's right where we want it to be. It's gonna be more in the middle of the pork chop than on the outside. But we're gonna continue to cut through this before we plate it up. All right, so to go with this pork chop, I made something really, really simple. And this is just a butternut squash puree. So I took a butternut squash, cut it in half, pulled the seeds out, put it on a sheet tray, into the oven, 400 degrees, until it got, to the point where you could just take a fork and kind of pull at it and it'll come apart, kind of like the consistency of a sweet potato. And once it did that, I was able to scoop it all out. I put it in a blender with some butter and cream, salt, pepper, those sort of things, however you like to flavor it. A little bit of acidity, a little bit of sweetness, things in there to kind of bring out the flavor of that squash. So I'm gonna take this puree and I'm just gonna put it down in a puddle. There's a lot of ways you can do things. Like I said, we're not getting too fancy. Now that I have my butternut squash down, I'm gonna take pieces of my pork chop. I'm just gonna lay them out to look really, really nice. You should take that whole pork chop and just put it around this plate. You just throw down your butternut squash. Who cares? You're eating it at home. But I'm just gonna kind of give you an example, ways that we can make it look a little bit nicer. So I'm just gonna take this pork chop right here. So we got it looking nice. This pork chop is super, super juicy. We're just gonna clean this plate up a little bit. It looks fantastic. We're gonna do a few more things to it, just to kind of bring out some flavors and bring some stuff together. I'm gonna take a little bit of this chili crisp. It's almost like a fad thing nowadays, like I see, but it's been around for a long time. It's a fantastic ingredient. So essentially what it is, if you like spicy stuff, if you like texture, this is really good. So there's bits of chili in here and peanuts, a lot of stuff going on. It has a nice level of heat. It's not like insane or anything. But it's gonna pair well with the seasoning that we have here on this pork. And also it's gonna play really well with this butternut squash. So we're just gonna take a little bit of this, kind of spread it out. And then the last thing we're gonna do, I don't like to over salt. Remember when we were going through, we salted a little bit, there was some salt in the seasoning. In the end, I know I'm gonna wanna put a little bit of flaky salt on it. So this is some Maldon salt. And we're just going to top it with a little bit of this. Now I could have got like crazy and put a bunch of like oils and different things on the plate, but like I said, we're just going to keep this super simple. This is super delicious. I've done this before. It's a fantastic recipe. And it's great, stuff that you can play around with the flavors. We can season that pork a million different ways. You go in and butternut squash, or it could be sweet potato puree, it could be regular potatoes, mashed potatoes, whatever you want to do. Like I said, we looked at breaking down a whole pork loin, super easy. You can take that thing and just do chops all the way through. Now, they're going to be a little different depending on which part you get it from. But cooking pork chops, super simple, super easy. Whether you do them on a grill or on a flat top, you can do them in the oven, you can do them on the stove top. Just make sure that we're not overcooking the pork. It gets tough, it gets dry. You do it like this, pull it at 130, right? You're gonna have juicy, delicious pork chops, right? Give it a taste. If you like, it needs a little more salt, add a little more salt, right? Even if you like to put different sauces and stuff, like condiments, go ahead. You throwing ketchup on it, go ahead. But the bottom line is just enjoy what you're eating. If you enjoy it, you enjoy the flavor, you enjoy the taste, fantastic, right? Even if you're all like, Adam, I can't cook it to 130, let it be a little pink, I'm just terrified. Cook a little further, right? Don't go wild, don't hit, it's not like a well done steak, which that's a whole different rant. But I just hope you get in the kitchen, enjoy stuff. You can just go buy $6 a pound pork chops. Get in the kitchen, cook something, enjoy something, learn something. Hope you learned a little bit today. Thank you for coming back, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.